Hi guys, everybody. It's about time I got back to work, I guess. Finish this story off for a few of you that are hanging on the edge of your seats. As you've heard in the last part, we saved a little girl and got her into the clinic, and then got her out of the clinic back home, and she became my shadow. Everywhere I went, she was there, and she was very sweet and very intelligent little girl. So we, after all this had happened, and we had my little fight with the Colombian Hector, and saved the little girl from drowning, the locals all decided to make me an honorary Cayman citizen and inform me about what was really going on everywhere on this island and how they lived and made their living. Well, like I said before, they made their living by growing weed on the little island of Little Cayman. So I said, okay, that sounds good. Y'all have a lot of fun. My father and uncle at one time were what they used to call guerrilla farmers in Florida. They grew weed also in the Gainesville area. And so I was used to that kind of atmosphere and that kind of thing going on around. The Hector had been sent to the hospital in Grand Cayman, not doing all that well. The two guys that worked for him had been ordered to come back to the island and to harass the locals any way they could or see fit. Beth told me one afternoon that those guys had raped two women, one young mother with a baby and one 15-year-old girl on the island, and then they had broken Gary's arm in an attempt to get rid of any police or sheriff or anything on the island, any protection. So they were on my shit list now too, and they had come back and would sneak around, and you couldn't hardly catch them doing anything, but we all kept an eye out for them. I went to dinner that night, and we had a nice barbecue, and everything was good. And the Beth was pleasant, and everybody was pretty happy because the bad guy, obviously Hector, was in hospital, and it all seemed to make them very happy. He'd been aggravating them for a long time, and his two minions, you might call them, were not very brave, so they didn't come right out, but they did, flatten tires on the trucks, and anything they could do to be an aggravating ass, they did. They didn't, try to rape anybody else or anything, but a couple times is enough. So I didn't put up with any kind of stuff like that in any time through my life, and I certainly want to go start now. The guy deserved what he got, and he deserved more than what he got. So my time was rapidly approaching, to go home, and I had a couple, 3 more days, and that night I went to my room, went to bed, and I sleep pretty light. I don't take much to wake me up, and the door opened. Oh, I was ready to jump out of bed and go straight to attack mode, and it turned out to be Beth. Now, Beth had told me in no uncertain terms that there was not going to be any romance of any kind. She was engaged, and she was going back to get married, and she was finishing med school. Okay, that doesn't mean I would stop being nice or stop flirting, but I did understand what she was saying. Well, here she was all of a sudden in my room, closed the door, and slipped into bed. And seeing that this is kind of a PG version of Pirate's Life, I'm going to leave it at that. For the rest of the trip I was there, she came every night and left early every morning. After a couple more days of diving, we had discovered, like I said, a Spanish wreck. We found out the Spanish because we found some of the coins. This is one of the better 4 reals that I've still got left. You can see the lions and the castles, and on the back you can see the shield. This is typical of what we found. We found a lot of them, mostly 4s and 2s, very few 8s, but that's what the ship carried. These were made by digging a little trough in the sand, and molten silver poured into the trough, and then they would have a little like a log shape, and they would cut off a slice, weigh it, continue to cut off pieces of the edge till they got the weight right, and then stamp it with a hammer. They're kind of crude, but they're called cobs, or pieces of 8. True pirate money. It's always been a big myth about pirates burying their treasure. No, they spent it on wine, women, and food just as quick as they could get it. They didn't bury much. If they did, it was all in storybooks. So we continued to dive on the wreck. We never did identify it, what year it was, or none of the coins seemed to have any decent dates. We found 1/6, but never any other parts of the date. So we dove on it pretty hard. Then Miss Elizabeth came to me, said it's going to be harvest season pretty soon. We'd like you to stay. And I thought about it a little bit. I said, well, I don't really have a job or anything, but I need to get home. So my time came. We went to the airport and waited around for the plane, and there was no plane. Plane did not show. Just like the Jimmy Buffett songs, you know, no plane comes Sunday, maybe one come Monday. But it didn't show. I went back to the resort, and Miss Elizabeth offered me a job. She says, look, Gary's got a broken arm. We need help here. Why don't you stay on till after harvest season is over, and by the time that goes around, Beth will be going back to school. So I said, well, I had not much of a job waiting for me back in Tampa. So I sounded like a pretty good idea. Here I would be diving all day and getting paid on top of everything else, diving, treasure hunting on a Spanish shipwreck, and dating a very attractive girl, which I had no girls back in Florida. So I took her up on the job and went to work. Beth would, she was the dive master on the boat. She would take the class, or mostly it was Europeans at that time, the people that were paid for the charter. She would guide them and herd them around and watch them, keep an eye on them, and then bring back to the boat at the right time. Gary would try to run the boat, and mostly I ran the boat. His arm was slow to heal, and it was in a big plaster cast, so he couldn't really be all that dexterous with it. After about a month further on, it became harvest time. So I was designated the boat driver, so I run the boat, and we went over to Little Cayman, where they had been already drying and packing and trash compacting all the weed, and loaded it up on the dive boat, which was a pretty interesting boat. It was a locally built boat in Jamaica, real thick fiberglass hull with a 5.9 Cummins diesel. I think the diesel came out of a truck originally, but it was a good running, heavy built, and very, very seaworthy. And so we loaded up and headed towards Grand Cayman. And as we got about halfway there, we noticed that there was a boat following us. It looked like cigarette boat, a Wellcraft cigarette, or a Wellcraft Scarab is what it was. 24 feet, IO boat, faster, a lot faster than we were. And we had made preparations though. I had found some sandbags, and I filled sandbags and placed them in the corner of the stern of each boat, of our boat. And then Gary had brought 2 shotguns, pump action shotguns, and lots of shells for them. And they had asked me originally what was the deal with the sand. I said, well, sand's the best bullet stop in the world. You can't shoot through sand. It just isn't going to happen. So if you can stay behind the sandbags, you're pretty safe. And that was the intent, was that if the guys came at us again during gunpoint, we weren't going to stop. We were going to continue to drive until we got back home with the money. So we got back all the way to Cayman Brac, tied up at the dock like it was broad daylight, and we were there to sell fish. And a crew of guys ran down the dock and started a daisy chain of little square bales all the way back into a warehouse, and bam, before you knew it, we were unloaded. A guy came down to the dock with a bag, handed Gary the bag, and we were paid, and we were on our way. Well, this is where the trouble part came in, because now we were carrying cash, all in Cayman dollars, and Cayman dollars were worth $1.25 to the U.S. dollar. Still to this day, they hold the value at that rate. It makes things more expensive there, but still not so bad you can't afford to go. So we're headed back, and the guys, he's following us, the Scarab boat is following us, and they get closer and closer and closer. And so me and Gary go back to each corner, our own corners in our sandbags, and sit down and squat down real low, and we're waiting. And as they get closer, sure enough, they start shooting. Now they were just shooting pistols, 45 caliber pistols, because I guess they saw too many movies on TV where the bad guys were, that was it, that 45 caliber pistol in their little shoulder holster, So they started shooting at us, and about the time they unloaded their pistols, which were like 7, 8 shots, we jumped up with the shotguns. And the idea was to put as many holes in their boat as you could, which we did. We put holes in the hull right at the waterline, and shot that boat so bad it looked like Swiss cheese. And then we ducked down behind the sandbags again and reloaded. Okay? And as soon as we got reloaded, we popped up again and shot more holes in their boat. Well, this time we were shooting double-aught buck, 30 caliber lead slugs, through a thinly made fiberglass hull. So it left quite a bit of holes, and I guess water was getting pretty bad in the boat. We decided Beth's idea, to cut through the reef, which was there was a narrow passage there to go through the reef. If you knew where it was, you could avoid the reef itself. And she was knowledgeable on that, and me and Gary kept watch on them with the shotguns, and they kept trying to circle us or go around us. And on the second pass, as they went around us, they hit the reef. They run that Scarab up on the reef really hard, really far. It was not coming off of there anytime soon. And then they stopped shooting at us and started to holler that they couldn't swim. Well, I didn't really feel that bad about it. I didn't chase us, I didn't make the situation, and I certainly didn't not teach them how to swim. Okay? So we're going to stop this video here, because this one here, and then we'll start up again in a little bit. Thanks for watching.